We have a voicemail number. That number is 219-2-DAVID-P. Now, this is a voicemail about 2020. Most election cycles, this would be a perfectly reasonable question to answer in the direct way that the person wants me to answer it. In 2020, we interpret this question differently. Take a listen to this and you'll know what I mean.
Yeah, my question is, what do you think is going to be the big deciding issues for swing states like Iowa in the 2020 elections, and what candidate best champions those issues, be them Democrat or Republican?
So in a normal election year, I would say, it's going to be healthcare and national security, and that's going to be. That is not the analysis in 2020. In 2020, we have a situation where this is going to ultimately be an election that comes down to turnout and that is going to be effectively decided by what is the perceived state of the American economy in 2020. Healthcare plans. We know at this point, Trump promised since 2015 a big, beautiful healthcare plan. It's not happening. It didn't happen. And even if Trump got something passed, it would be terrible. We know that most Democrats are now on board with some version of Medicare for all. Joe Biden wants to work around the edges and make some improvements to Obamacare. Okay, fine. We understand what it is. It is not ultimately going to be the difference maker. It is going to be what is turnout from both people who voted for Trump in 2016, people who did not vote for Trump in 2016, and people who didn't vote at all in 2016. Are we going to be able to turn out our base, or are we not going to be able to do that? And a lot of it will just be, what is the perceived strength of the American economy? Tariffs will be a part of it. The stock market will be a part of it. Employment rates will be a part of it. And that is the issue, so to speak. But ultimately, it is a referendum on Donald Trump. Even more, I think back to in elections I've covered, or actually, this was before the show even started, but even in elections I paid attention to closely. When George W. Bush was up for re-election in 2004, it was effectively a referendum on George W. Bush, including on the disastrous economy at the time and on the Iraq War. It is difficult to remove an incumbent president. The presidency has a significant power of incumbency. And ultimately, George W. Bush was reelected, if I recall correctly, because of something like 100 or 150,000 votes in Ohio that went his way instead of John Kerry's way. I think that 2020 is even more of a referendum on the president than 2004 was on George W. Bush. And ultimately, I appreciate the question. I could rattle off, listen, healthcare is more important than gun safety. People tend to vote more on jobs plans than they do on foreign policy. We could do all of that stuff. But ultimately, that is not the way that this election is going to go down. And this is why it is so important that we turn the base out. It's got to happen. That is what this is going to ultimately hinge on. I would hope that you mentioned Iowa. In Iowa, farmers are getting crushed. And in Iowa, you may actually see the election hinge on, do farmers and people who know farmers, which is a lot of Iowans, recognize that Donald Trump's trade war and tariffs have been what has so significantly damaged the economy in Iowa and hurt so many farmers? I don't know the answer to that. A lot of them say they're angry with Trump, but they don't seem to be saying, I'm not voting for Trump, which are two very different things. Recognizing that Trump did a bad is not the same as saying, I, as a lifelong Republican farmer, am going to vote for a Democrat. That is much harder to get people to do. We've got a great bonus show for you today. Beto O'Rourke is blasting Breitbart after ejecting their reporter. This is going to be an interesting one. I will also talk about a Japanese public transport idea of invisible ink stamps to identify gropers on public transit. And also, we will talk about Montana men who lied about military service, who have been ordered to wear "I am a liar" signs in public. Is this logical? Is this an adult punishment, or is this something that is just a bit too childish and that we should not be pursuing as part of our legal system's actions? All of those stories and more on today's bonus show. Become a member at joinpakman.com to get instant access, or become a patron at patreon.com/David Pakman Show.